out my problems. So please introduce yourself again and tell us what you're reading for us.
Hello, once again. Hello to my little book corner. To those who have just joined us, hello, my name is Thuli T, and I will be reading to you. I like to do very interactive things. I like to ask questions. And the question I'm going to ask is, behaving yourselves? Are you driving mom and dad crazy, or are you guys little helpers? As you would say. Are you guys washing your hands?
Yes.
Right? You know, to touch our face, on our eyes, and our mouth. And can anybody tell me, what do we have to do when we cough? Excellent. Okay, let's get going. I'll be reading you The Elves and the Shoemaker. Does anybody know what an elf is? What's an elf?
Santa's helper.
Yes, Santa's little helper. Okay. And here is the story of the elf and the shoemakers. What?
The elves and the shoemaker.
And his wife.
That was that make shoes.
They were very
puzzle.
hard and very honest. Not make enough money to live on, and soon everything they had in the world was gone. All they had left was just enough to make leather. Sorry, all that was just left was just enough to make leather, was enough leather to make one pair of shoes. The poor shoemaker cut out the leather and laid it out, ready to make it into shoes for the next morning. Tomorrow, when it's sunny, I will work on them, he told his wife. The good shoemaker said his prayers and lay down to sleep. So here's the shoemaker's tools, and they've run out of leather, they've run out of food. I'm sure, they don't know what to do. And here's the shoemaker and his wife, and he's praying so that tomorrow he can start on his shoes the next day. The next morning, he went to start work on the shoes. However, to his wonder, he saw the shoes sitting there on the table, already finished. What an odd thing. The good man didn't know what to say or think. He looked at the workmanship of the shoes. They were perfect. There was not even one wrong stitch. Soon, a customer came in and asked to see the shoes. They suited him so well that he paid much more for them than usual. The poor shoemaker was able to buy enough leather to make 2 pairs of shoes. That evening, he cut out the leather and laid it out ready to work for the next morning. Can you imagine? So the next morning, the shoemaker finds the pieces of leather that he put the night before done. And he asked himself, who made these shoes? I was sleeping last night. Who did this? And the shoes were really good. They were so good that he sold them, and the people bought 2. When the shoemaker got up the next day and went into his shop to start work, there were 2 finished pairs of shoes sitting there. Again, how did this happen? I left 2 pieces of leather. Who is making these shoes? Am I going crazy? Again, the work was that of a master. Soon, some customers came in and bought the shoes so that the shoemaker could buy enough leather so that he can make 4 pairs of shoes. Can anybody tell me what 4 pairs of shoes, how many shoes are we talking about if we talk about 4 pairs of shoes?
8.
Yes, excellent. So he went from making 3 pairs, now he's making 4. That's 8 shoes. Right? He cut out the leather and laid it out as usual the night before overnight. Sure enough, the next morning he woke to find 4 pairs of shoes sitting there. This continued on. The shoemaker would cut out the leather in the evening and wait to find the shoes finished by daybreak. Soon, the good shoemaker's business was thriving. So there. Remember the other day they had no money and no food, and the man was was praying. And now more and more people are coming and they're buying the shoes because they look good and the work is amazing. But the secret is nobody knows who's making these shoes. One evening in winter, the shoemaker and his wife were sitting by the fire talking together. The shoemaker said, I should like to stay awake tonight and see who is it that comes and does my work for me. His wife thought, that's an excellent idea. They lit the candle and then hid themselves behind a curtain in the corner of the room to see what would happen. Right on the stroke of midnight, 2 little elves dressed in ragged clothes with bare feet skipped in. They sat down on the shoemaker's bench and picked up the cutout leather and start working. Their little fingers flew as the needles stitched back and forth, and their little hammers rap-a-tap-tap. Poor fellows, they must be so cold, whispered the shoemaker's wife. And indeed, they were shivering as they worked. Soon, all the shoes sat ready on the bench. The 2 little elves skipped and danced around the room and they were gone. So one night he said, I need to find out who these people that are making my shoes. He said, I'm not going to sleep tonight. I'm going to hide behind this curtain and I'm going to wait. And really, as they put the leather there, he cuts all the leather the night before, as you can see it on the table. And then there the elves coming in at midnight in their ragged clothes, and they go about stitching and stitching and stitching away. And then in the morning, he finds the shoes ready for sale without doing it. So now he knows who his little helpers are. The next morning, the shoemaker said, okay, thank you. Coming, sorry. I need to charge. I apologize. Okay, I'm back. The next morning, the shoemaker said to his wife, I so like to thank those good creatures for what they've done for us. What can we do for them? Their clothes are so ragged and thin, said the shoemaker's wife. I will make them a warm woolen jacket, a shirt, a waistcoat, and a pair of stockings and pantaloons for each. The shoemaker was very pleased with this. If you make them clothes, I'll make them each a pair of shoes, he said. When everything was ready, instead of laying out the cutout leather, they laid out the little outfits on the work table. Then the shoemaker and his wife again hid behind the curtain to see what the little elves would do. Once again, at the stroke of midnight, the 2 elves skipped in. When they went to sit at the table, they saw the clothes and shoes lying there ready just for them. They laughed and chuckled in delight and clapped their hands with joy. They dressed themselves in their new outfits and danced and capered about the room. As they danced, they sang, now we are so fine to see, no longer need we crumbles be. Then they skipped out the door. So here they are saying, we're going to hide tonight. And they made them their clothes. As you can see, the wife making clothes. And instead of laying the leather for the shoes to make, they decided to leave their clothes to surprise them. And at midnight, as usual, came in and they found their clothes and they were so delighted and they were dressed and they looked better and they were warm And there they are behind the curtain, seeing them dance with delight, dancing and singing because they've got new clothes. The good shoemaker and his wife never saw the two little elves again, but they lived a long and happy life, and good luck was with them always. And here, after that, the elves went, and their business did well, and they were selling shoes again. What do we think the moral of the story is? Okay, that it's good to be a little helper, and that when you help people, good things will come to you, right? Especially so many people that don't have because of the lockdown. So it's always good to think about people and share, just be considerate other than yourself. And that is the end of my story. Did you guys enjoy?